Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
Today we're carrying on our Greek armies, and this is the last video for our Carian army. We've already done the Queen Artemisia, we've done the Hoplite contingent, and we've done the Ledgers. Yes, and now we are on to the Lykians. The Lykians were part of the Carian army. They were not always part of Caria. Lykia is was a small independent kingdom on the edge of Caria. Now Caria had several neighbours. We've already done the history of Caria, I'll not go too much into that, just watch the other videos. But Caria was a Greek city-state that refused to admit they were Greek, and they had several really powerful neighbours that they would occasionally go to war with, or whenever they had the chance they would go to war with them. But it didn't really change the border much because there were powerful states on their borders. Unfortunately, Lykia was a very, very small kingdom. And do you know what happens to a very, very small kingdom with a very, very small army when it's on the border of someone like the Carians?
It gets conquered.
It gets conquered, yeah. Imagine being a really small city-state next to Sparta. How long do you think it would be until you become part of Sparta?
I'd give it a week.
Yeah. So the Carians would occasionally raid them, and in the end just walked in and said, "You're ours now." So they invaded and they conquered the lands. Of course, during all this fighting, it coincided with the growth of the Persian Empire. And when the Persians came in to this region, the rebels in Lykia went over to the Persian satrap, who was the father of one soon-to-be great Queen Artemisia, and said, "Hey, these horrible Carian people keep invading us, can you come and kill them for us?" And the Persian said, "Well, it's fine, because we've just made friends with them, therefore they're your friends too." See? Yeah. Which means they legally then became part of Caria, simply because they were a small kingdom, and even Persia could not allow small kingdoms to really exist, so it became part of the Carian Empire, although never recognised by the Lykians themselves. The Lykians never really liked the Carians. They did fight a rebellion during the Carian Civil War, to try and get independence, and they did gain some help from the Athenians. The Athenians did send troops to help them try and get away, and the Athenian battle plan was, we're not going to win this, so why don't all your people get on boats and come and live in one of our islands? And the Lykians didn't really like that idea, so they said, we'll stay behind, thanks. And they ended up being sort of part of Caria, but it's a little bit like Scotland being part of Britain. So there's no reason Scotland can't be independent, but sooner or later other powers that Britain's at war with will land in Scotland to invade Britain, which is what the Spanish did, which is what the French did.
Well, that's what Spanish tracks do.
Yeah, and the French did it. There's a number of wars fought, that all the Jacobite rebellions was basically foreigners turning up in Scotland and using it to invade Britain. So in the end Britain said, it's enough of this, we'll just occupy Scotland, which we did, and that's why Scotland's part of the United Kingdom. Same thing with Lykia. It's not that the Lykians were Carian in any way. They had nothing in common. They didn't speak the same language as the Carians. They didn't speak the same language as the Ledgers, who were the natural inhabitants of Caria. They had nothing culturally in common. The pottery is different. The artwork's different. Everything's different about them. But they ended up being part of the Carian Empire. And it kind of made sense for them. So when the Ionian revolt kicked off, they sided obviously against the Carians. But when the revolt was over, they decided to throw their lot in with the Carians. So by the time of the First Greco-Persian War, Lykians did actually march in the Carian army as part of the Persian contingent to Marathon, and later on in the Second Greco-Persian War they actually fought at the battle of where Leonidas died, and they later on fought in the naval campaign. So they would have had ships as well of their own for them to be in, probably 2 or 3 ships. let's not get overexcited. Bear in mind the Egyptian Navy only sent 7 ships to fight in the battle. So 2 ships is probably quite good for a small city-state. In fact, how many ships did the Spartans have?
A few.
17?
Never really did anything with them, did they?
No, because most of the Spartan ships are merchantmen. And the Spartan fleet, they didn't really need warships. It wasn't really a thing that they needed because they would just land and fight on land. So you could carry troops, but there's no real reason to fight open naval warfare. Of course, the campaign in the Southern Islands is a completely different story. But that's basically it. Colour-wise, I got them straight out of the Osprey Men-at-Arms book. The colour scheme for these, I just like the if you've got an Osprey, they sell one of the books has got the a small part about the Lykians themselves, and it's got a picture of a Lykian which looks pretty much the same as any of these. They're wearing a blue smock, which it could have actually been any colour, probably multicoloured, lots of different colours, but I decided to do them all in blue because most of my armies have turned out to be more or less one colour. And I've given them a nice patterned shield because they're very individualistic, just like any other independent Greek. And I've given them a white cloak because that was what was in the book. I just like the look of it. So I did ad-lib with the shields, but the colour scheme came straight from Osprey. I don't often just copy Osprey. I do my own research, but that was the only real picture I could find of a Lykian. Searched everywhere to try and find pictures of Lykians, and it's part of the Persian war book, I think, as a Persian army. I think it's next to the Shahabina troops, the guys with the big shields. I think it's next. I think it's on the same page as them, or it might be with the Persian skirmishers. Just look the book up, you'll find it. So, I've also given them a Persian banner. Now, I didn't give the rest of my Carians Persian banners. And the reason for that is they were an independent army that served under Persia. Whereas these guys, they've probably got more Persian influence, so I gave them a command unit that's the commander there, and a banner denoting that they're part of the Persian army. Didn't do that with the Carians for the reason I just said. So, questions?
2.
Go on.
First one. So does that mean that the Lycans never really had a colour scheme for their shields? So they never really worshipped anything or any symbolism?
They were never united. So they were never an independent kingdom. They had no particular god to worship. They were just a pantheon of gods like everybody else. They had nothing to really symbolise their land. I could find nothing in all the stuff I read about them to actually use as a basis for the army. So I just decided to give them multiple coloured schemes. Just as you said when I put them on the table, Greek mercenaries.
Yeah, just like mercenaries.
Yeah, because mercenaries would have multicoloured shields just like this because they were mercenaries. They weren't part of a city-state. Other than the Athenians, who had lots and lots of different designs, they had no real shield colour other than the owl, which wasn't all that common. Most city-states had for their regular army, they had one symbol, so you could easily tell them apart. But mercenaries, they would wear lots of different things because they were mercenaries. I mean, what I'd have done, I'd have had a shield that's completely white with sticks counting 1 to 5. Yeah, and that's how many people I'd killed in battle. So obviously on my first day I'd have 57 written on it, so people were scared of me. And they wouldn't fight me, therefore I'd survive.
I'd camouflage mine.
Yeah.
Then no one know I'm there, I know. I won't fight.
You don't put camouflage colours on your shield.
Yeah. I'm a body.
Yeah. Just cover yourself.
Yeah, I'm part of the wall.
Yeah.
That's the guys.
Paint yourself temple coloured and just stand next to the temple and let them pass.
They won't know.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, it is.
That's quite good.
That'd be a great Lycan.
I saw someone had some soldiers that they'd painted one of their tanks in bricks. They'd literally painted bricks onto the side of their tank, and then they parked it next to a brick building. and they took a picture of it. And I thought that was really cool. You could hardly see the tank. Of course, it would be useless in real life, because how often do you find yourself...
You need to move.
Yeah.
When you get shelled.
But which is why even urban camouflage, they just don't bother trying to camouflage you. They just try and break up your outline.
I mean, the British, they just spray paint their tanks all the same. Germans just spray paint their tank. Everyone just spray paints their tanks.
It's dull, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the days back in World War II when we went to town making our tanks camouflaged. Actually, the British didn't. But the Americans had a go.
We had like 50,000 of them.
Yeah, it would have taken too much paint. Whereas the Germans didn't have many tanks, so they were able to spend a lot of time camouflaging their
And it
tanks.
lasted a long time.
Yeah. So, yeah, you had another question?
Yeah, armour.
Armour. Again, don't know. They weren't rich. They were not a rich kingdom. So, and they were occupied as well, so I should guess all the cash had been stolen by the Carians in the various raids, plus the taxes they have to pay to the Persians, which were really high. So, I would guess they wouldn't actually be able to afford armour. They could have, if they did have a bit of cash, they would have a little bit of, maybe a breastplate, something like that. It would probably be handed down from father to son, so I didn't bother armouring them. But I would think that underneath some of these clothing, they could have some armour underneath. But I wouldn't guess that normally they would be armoured. And they weren't really. They would have had standard drilling, probably with the Persian army. They could have had Carian training. I'm not really sure, so it may be down to themselves. So were they really that good a fighting force? Would they need armour? Would they be fighting in phalanx?
Or would they be like flank troops?
Yeah, they're going to be flanking troops, really, aren't they? In fact, the only reason I gave them a shield, a Greek shield, was because in the Osprey book they had a Greek shield. But some local tribes, that they were entirely equipped with sort of wicker shields.
Well,
and stuff
I mean,
like
I
that.
suppose the Persians would have given them shields.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, for light infantry, every soldier was issued 2 shields and a weapon of some kind, and usually some form of sword. Some form of axe, which was the favourite for Persian weapon. So everyone would get an axe. Everyone would get a weapon, which would be either a spear or something like that he was supposed to use. The axe is a backup weapon. So you'd have that. And then you'd have a shield, which would usually be a cheaper wicker shield. Or maybe a shield with hide spread across it. It wouldn't be very good. So I should guess that, given that, I mean, they're not Greeks in any sense of the word. They weren't related to the Greeks. They weren't Dorian or they weren't any of the Greek groups. But given their interactions with Carrier, I guess that they would probably carry Greek equipment because of the amount of interactions they had both with the Athenians, who did help them during the Civil War, and also the Carians themselves. They used hoplite shields, and the fact that the kingdom was still in existence means they must have had something, because if you don't have an armour-plated shield, you're not going to stay alive fighting Carians. Or any Greeks, for that matter. I mean, even the Immortals couldn't fight the Greeks, because the Immortals had rubbish equipment. The Greeks were just so much better than them. And for the fact that this kingdom still existed at the time of the Greek or Persian War, means that they must have used Greek equipment. Just throwing it out there, they must have done.
Oh, there's no need of them.
Would you allow a small kingdom on your border to stay there?
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you consider what actually happened during the Ionian
Well,
Revolt.
it depends if they're paying proper money. They're paying the normal amount I've been asking for from them, unlike others.
Oh yeah,
try to avoid it.
Unlike the Greeks, unlike the Athenians.
You know, who give me a box that's empty.
No, they had best wishes in the box.
Yeah, sorry.
The box had best wishes in it. That's Greek humour.
They could have written to me.
Yeah, I think it's Greek humour, that is. Here's our gift to you, O great emperor. It's an empty box.
I'm just asking for it then.
Yeah, they were.
I was beheaded them then.
They were just spoiling for a fight because they genuinely did not care. They did not care. They really didn't care. So the Persians are there going, we're grown-ups, we're trying to build an empire, get everyone to speak the same language, trying to stop people fighting each other. We're building a civilization here,
What
guys.
language do Persians speak?
Persian.
Well, they clearly failed because most of the world speaks English. So really, they failed with this whole making.
Well, that's because of the British Empire, but and America.
But the Persian Empire.
But the Persians didn't make it because they were doing this. They were saying we're going to build this civilization. We're going to get everyone to work together. We're going to stop fighting wars with each other constantly. If you need grain, we'll get grain from that part of the empire and give it to you. If you need water, we'll build an aqueduct. We will make everything work for you. And there, the Greeks on the edge, these barbarians who've just invented democracy, sat on the edge over there, way from the Persian Empire, who just aren't interested. And the Persians are, look, we all join together and be friends. The Greeks just, nah. Just not interested. Don't care.
Just beat it into them.
Yeah, and then the Persian Empire spent all of its money fighting 2 wars which they lost against the tiny Greek states.
Yeah, it's not just that. America lost against Vietnam. That's
true.
Tiny place.
A huge amount of money.
It's something about these tiny countries.
It's just massive empires trying to fight a tiny country. It's just not worth it in the end.
These tiny countries are cursed.
Yeah, it's just because it takes so much effort to get there for a start. The poor Persians had to build this huge bridge to march their army across the first time, and that didn't work. And in fact, the Greeks cut the bridge down and used the silk ropes that tied the bridge together as money. They use the rope as currency. That's what the Greeks do. It's like, why did they cut our bridge down? Were they afraid of us invading them? No, they wanted to sell it. They sold the bridge. That's Greeks. You're dealing with Greeks. You're not dealing with normal people. And then the second war, they had to get every ship in the world that existed, in the known world, and sail them all the way to Greece to invade Greece. And then they lost their entire fleet. So the Persians couldn't ship food. They couldn't ship anything. See, just what the Persians should have done is said, fine, if you don't want to be friends, we'll not talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but then Greece was just invading.
Yeah, no, and then Greece goes and supports rebellions all over the place. If anybody rebelled, anyone at all, and even Babylon with Babylonia, which was the richest country in the world, right? The richest place in the world was Babylon. They had this huge gold statue of their king, and in order to become king, you had to shake the gold statue's hand or hold the God, and that meant that God had transferred power to you. What did the Persians do? They stole it, melted it down for cash to pay for the war. And
then there's a revolution.
So the Babylonians revolted, and as soon as they revolted, a bunch of Athenians turn up and say, "Need a hand?" Same with the Egyptians. The Egyptians didn't want to marry off the Egyptian king's daughter to a Persian because they were worried that the Persians would take over Egypt. And the Persians didn't really want to do that. It's just the guy actually was in love with the guy's daughter. But the Egyptians said, no, we don't want to do that, and they ended up being at war. And again, the Greeks turned up, and, well. Anyway, that's the end of the video.
So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of the Lycans. That's everything from me.
And everything from him. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
See ya.